Hey everybody, Woody here. Chris is still out sick, so I'm hijacking the channel one more time to do a quick comic book review. Today we're going to be looking at The Human Fly, the wildest superhero because he was real. So before we get into this comic book, I want to do a little backstory because actually the backstory of this comic book is very interesting and kind of strange. And it's just a weird one. So because he's real, basically Marvel based this comic book series off of a real person or persons. There is a little bit of controversy or mystery on whether the real life Human Fly was one person or it was actually a couple of different people. He was always masked when he was in in public or on TV. And so it's kind of up in the air whether he was one person or many persons. It is believed that the stunts that the real Human Fly did were made by a gentleman named Rick Roche from Canada. So the story that this is based on, what was portrayed on TV in basically 1976, 77, and I think it went through about 1978. It was a gentleman who had been in a serious car accident. His wife and child died in the car accident. He was severely injured. Doctors told him he would probably be crippled the rest of his life. He spent about 4 years in the hospital. And while he was in the hospital, he saw lots of other people that were disabled or severely injured, and including kids. And through mental power and his own just gumption, he decided he was not going to be permanently injured. And so he set about forcing his body to exercise and get back into health and strength. And that's where Marvel kind of picked up this superhero. This superhero is very similar. Some of the controversy or mystery is still whether the real life person, if this was a true story or just something that was made up for publicity or just an odd marketing campaign. The real life Human Fly did do a few stunts. He actually stood on top of a jet and did this a couple of times through a few air shows and came out with a few injuries, but he did make it through those. And then finally he did a motorcycle jump trying to beat Evel Knievel's record, which he did, although he did not land the jump. He crashed and was severely injured again. And that was the last time we heard of the Human Fly. So the real life character, again, it may have been real, may have just been an odd marketing campaign. The comic book series actually lasted longer than the real life character that was running around. This comes from my own collection. I used to have many of these, but unfortunately, some were destroyed, some were stolen, some were taken by an evil ex-wife. And so I only have a couple now, but I luckily still have the very first issue, our first appearance of the Human Fly. I actually enjoyed the couple of these that I read, and they had a unique spin. So the Human Fly is not your typical superhero. He doesn't have any superpowers. He is just kind of an acrobat, kind of a stunt man. When he was in his car accident, which they did bring into the comic book series, much of his bones were replaced with metal or reinforced with metal. And that comes from the real life story or made up real life story. But what is great about this character is without superpowers, he still did some amazing things. He fought off some bad guys. He saved the day. In the comic book series, any money that was awarded to him, he would send off to charity. He tried to encourage other people that were differently abled or handicapped or crippled in some way. And even his sidekicks throughout the series have their own issues, and he worked at trying to help them and build them up. So the comic book hero is pretty great, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. So let's get into this. I've been talking long enough. So this was created in 1977 by Marvel. I'll probably not pronounce these names right, but the writer was Bill Mantlo, artist Lee Ellis, which I love the artwork in these. It's that very classic, the Marvel way of doing comic books, and I actually really enjoy this. As a kid, I did not take very good care of my comic books, and you'll kind of see that as we go through this. This is from my personal collection, and it is a little rough. Lettering by Joe Rosen. Colorist was Mary Sev, and editor Archie Goodwin. So this story starts out with a death walk. We can see up here where the human fly, his sidekicks, are flying a jetted helicopter, and they're trying to assist him to land on top of this moving jet. So this kind of takes a little bit from his real life story, where he actually rode on top of a jet. In this, he's partnered with an engineer that has helped him kind of create almost a bat suit, or maybe they mention Tony Stark throughout this, so maybe it's kind of engineered after Captain America, but there are magnets within his gloves, and that's what he uses to grapple on top of this moving jet. I love these old ads. If you read through some of these, they are just fantastic. There's a get rich quick schemes, become a locksmith, become an artist, become strong within 7 days, all kinds of stuff. So the human fly, using his magnetic gloves, grabs onto this jet in the midst of a storm. Rain is pelting his body as he claims to be going over 300 miles an hour. This also takes a little bit out of his real life story, whereas one of the times he was doing stunts on top of a plane, he was being pelted with raindrops and actually went unconscious from the pain. Here we start to get into a backstory of his sidekicks. So first, his pilot. Her name is Blaze, and she was an actual FAA pilot. On one of her very first missions, she was dealing with a captain who had collapsed. He had a heart attack or something, so she had to land the jet. She successfully landed the jet, but she was severely injured. All of the passengers lived, but her time spent in the hospital kind of ruined her confidence. She was dealing with depression and some other things until she was approached by a mysterious stranger who encouraged her to get back to work, and that was the human fly. Moving on to his other sidekick here, we can notice the gentleman's missing his hands, and he is actually trying to hold on to this balance bar with hooks. We get a little bit of his backstory. He was an engineer, and in Vietnam, he had placed some explosive devices to destroy this bridge when he noticed that a woman and children were crossing the bridge. He ran out to try to stop them, and while doing so, he was severely injured and lost both of his hands. He thought for sure nothing could help him, and he was miserable and depressed, and he too was approached by a mysterious stranger in the hospital who turned out to be the human fly, who encouraged him and told him to join his team. So back to our original story. The human fly has made it on top of the jet. He has been using magnetic boots and magnetic gloves and magnets in his hands. He has a balance baton. Some people falsely describe this as a pimp cane, but it's meant to be a balance baton. He also uses it as a weapon often. And here we see there's actually a guest star in this comic. So Peter Parker is inside the jet as one of the passengers. The jet has been hijacked by some, I think they call them mercenaries in here, but they are demanding some hostage payments basically to land the plane safely and let go of the hostage. Peter Parker has not revealed himself as one of the passengers yet. The human fly is blasted off of the jet and is flying through the air when he switches his controls from magnetic boots to jets. This also has been done by his engineer who has created the suit for him. He's able to get a hold of the plane again, and then we finally get his backstory. This backstory I've kind of explained to you guys already. It's part of the supposed real life backstory where the gentleman was in a severe car crash. His wife and child died. He was very injured and burned through over his whole body. Doctors told him he would not recover again, but he decided he was not going to accept that. So over the process of 4 years, he exercised and regained his strength. While in the hospital, he saw many other veterans. This was, again, just after Vietnam. So there was many other veterans that were injured. He saw children that were crippled or handicapped, and he set out to be kind of a spokesman for those people. He finally makes it into the jet and is fighting off the bad guys, which gives a nice distraction for Peter Parker to slip on his suit and help out. While both of them are fighting off the henchmen, the main bad guy tries to escape out one of the side doors of the aircraft. Now, I won't spoil the rest of the comic for you, but I will leave you with the little cliffhanger that the bad guy has been tackled by the human fly and they are now falling towards the earth. Will they live? Who knows? Definitely check out these comic books. If you get a chance to find these really were neat. Like I said, I only have a couple more, but the general premise of each comic book was that the human fly was in a public area to maybe perform a stunt or some other publicity, and something would go wrong, whether it was a natural disaster or it was a villain. He would then save the day. And quite often, the crowd would maybe help him out in some way. And throughout the book series, there are a number of other handicapped folks that actually become heroes throughout these stories to either help foil the bad guy or help save others. So again, a really neat book with a very strange backstory. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps out the Comictopia Club channel as more than you can know. While you guys are at it, make sure you hit the human fly bell right next to that so that way you get notifications. Hopefully Chris will be back with us soon so you guys don't have to hear me talk anymore. That's it from me today. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.